Hey, Christine,
Hi, Robes.
how you doing? We got
Good.
rain
We got rain a little bit, yeah.
and the grass is green again. I was like,
Them
oh,
taking it.
thrilled.
I know.
It was so nice to go out and get wet.
Oh, I know. And the air is wet. Oh, I love it.
I know.
I love it.
Somebody said it's been 6 weeks. One of the farmers said that it's been 6 weeks since they've had any significant rain.
Oh, I think at least we're in severe drought.
Yeah, particularly Eastern Connecticut, Northeastern.
That's us.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's us.
That is us.
That was a great party, huh?
That was fun. That was really fun.
It was nice to see everybody having a good time and,
Yeah,
you know.
it was fun. So
Janet took off. She's off for a couple of days.
oh, good. Okay.
She
Yeah,
needs
I'm
a rest because she had a lot on her plate with all that stuff.
I
There was
betcha.
a lot to do, and
Well, she handled it well.
yeah, and it was a little precarious there because she was a little concerned because they didn't have many people signed up.
Oh, really?
Last Sunday, they only had, I think, 26 people or something.
Really?
And then
Oh.
end up they had around 80. So it did all work out. But of course, people don't do things until the bitter end. I mean,
Yeah, I
like
know.
Jeff kept saying, people aren't going to sign up until Thursday,
Right.
And I think, people they waited till the end, which is understandable. A lot of us do when we're doing things,
Right. Right.
Nobody's
Not-
thinking on Sunday what they're going to do on next Sunday or Saturday,
Seriously.
whenever,
Yeah. Oh, it's funny.
It's the way it goes. It's the way
But
it goes.
and also, like wondering whether we're gonna have what kind of weather we're gonna have,
Right, right,
because it's
Yeah.
not a very big indoor space.
right, right. And, then it's like, well, do you want to go indoor? A lot of people are really hesitant, like Angie, she was sitting a little bit apart in the beginning. And I said, Angie, if you come in closer, you'll be out of the sun. And she said, no, I feel comfortable being a little bit distant from people because, she's concerned. And she was also seeing her friend who had transplant. So
Right.
doesn't, understandably,
Right.
that's really not, if you're dealing with transplant and all those issues, you don't want to
Yeah.
be exposed to anything. So
Yeah.
we'll
Well,
see.
I've managed to miss it so far, so I'd like to keep that going.
Yeah, there are not a lot of us who have done it, and I know a couple of people who are extremely careful and they still got it. But I
Yeah, I
also heard
know.
of people who actually, a couple that went ahead with their wedding even though they had COVID because it cost them so much money. They didn't want to cancel.
Yeah.
I don't know if they told people, but I hope they did. I mean, these
Yeah,
are their
really.
friends. I mean, I wouldn't feel very good about it. I mean, if they tell
Right.
me and I make my own decision, okay. but
Right.
Not to tell me.
Right. And if they don't know everybody's health status,
Right.
Right.
That's the thing, it's like, ooh, Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Bill.
I
We got rain.
A little.
yeah.
They got a lot in Texas. Did you
Yeah,
hear
well,
about the rain? They
Especially
just
Dallas,
collected all their rain from all over the country where the drought was, and they got it all in 1/2 hour or something.
When we were living in Texas, we had 27 inches of rain in one night.
Oh my
Really?
God. Oh my God.
Flooded the whole medical center. It was a disaster. We were closed for 2 months at the medical school.
That's outrageous.
Wow.
Ugh,
Yeah, you can get big rain down there.
that's basically having a river on top of you.
Yeah, it was
A big
actually
river.
because we lived next to a bayou, and when
Oh,
we were
man.
lucky, we were high enough that we didn't get any flooding, but everyone around us was flooded.
Wow.
Oh,
When I got up in the morning, I went outside with the dog, and the canoe was coming down the road looking. There was firemen. They said there was report of a fire, a place is burning, and if I knew anything about it.
And it was at the end of our street. We just couldn't, it was a block or so away. And this house just burnt to the ground in the flood,
In the
Burnt to the
flood.
water.
burnt to the water line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That's-
Hi, Steve.
Hi,
Oh.
Steve.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I can't believe the Ashford Oak fell. So it looks like, did
Well,
someone?
wait, let's officially start the meeting because I know Janet's not coming. She's away and I don't know about Gwen. So, oh, and Pam, I don't know about Pam either. So, but maybe we can, it's 7:02. So let's just start anyway. And if Pam comes, she can join in. Okay, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt you, Christine. Go ahead.
So Steve, on your picture, it looked like it was cut.
No, it's not cut. It just fell. So before the meeting tonight, I decided, maybe I'll just ride over there and see it because I hadn't heard anything back from JT. I wanted to see if any signage had gone up. That, they would tell me if they do that, but regardless, I decided to check. Went over there, tree was down. And so I heard a car door shut and I went to a neighbor's house and he said it happened when he was away early in August, maybe in some windstorm. And surprisingly, no one else, let anybody know that I know of. Now, it's Giant Oak Lane and I think 5 people live on that road or something,
Right.
but and I don't think it's visited very often, but I don't think JT was aware, or I would have thought they would have contacted me about
Yeah.
that. And I don't go there every day to check
Yeah,
on
really.
Coke, so, but I could swear I was there within the last 2 weeks. And, it was still standing. So maybe I took too long a gaze at it or something and, it decided to fall. I don't know what to say, but.
It's not your fault. You did everything you could to protect it.
Thank you, Bill. I feel a lot better.
Well, there was a lot of wind the last week.
Was there? Yeah,
Yeah, it was really windy.
Yeah, I can't remember that.
Last week, it was really windy.
I was away in Newburyport last week, so I'm not really sure, anyway. So it's down, there's just maybe 15 feet of trunk left standing and I didn't even go in to where it fell, but it fell exactly where, one would have thought it would fall, away from the road and not, it didn't impact anybody's property or anything like that, except JT's. So,
Hi, Pam. We're talking about.
Hi,
Oh,
everyone.
Yeah.
Steve, that's such sad news.
yeah, it is. I mean, if you read the article, they would suggest that it's been around for 350 years.
Ugh,
And it finally, the large majority of it fell. I mean, there's half a trunk, not even half, a quarter of a trunk left standing, maybe 15 feet tall, but yeah, it's, degraded over the past 5 years pretty substantially. So, but it's I'm wearing a shirt. You see my shirt? This is the 300 year.
yeah.
That's a depiction of the Ashford Oak.
Cool.
And Ashford uses it as an emblem too,
Right.
so it is kind of a sad day to discover that it's down.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I posted on Ashford community connections too, and because I figured the community would want to know, so
Yeah.
we'll see what happens there. But I don't think we have to worry too much about signage, although, you know, if the sign's already made, it would make sense to put it up, you know,
What else are you gonna do with it?
exactly. So,
Well, I think it is important to mark that spot, you know, as you say, you know, the Ashford Oak has been kind of like a symbol
yeah,
of Ashford for many years, and certainly in its prime, it, you know, cast a huge presence, shall we say, you know, and over the years, yeah, it's sort of, you know, because it is so deteriorated, but there are still people who were very, very fond of it and really related to it. So, you know, I think that to mark that spot is pretty important. I would think that Joshua's Trust would feel the same way about it.
yeah, I would think so. I would think so. I'm expecting lots of suggestions about what to do with the fallen wood and that sort of thing. That's what usually happens when it starts to be discussed, you know, let's turn it into something, but yeah, I don't know anybody who could even consider doing that. And then there's the issue of moving anything that large, you know, so all that, but yeah, marking it, and we've got a really nice fence in front of it now too, and so who knows? I mean, it could have stood for 20 more years. You just never know with the tree, right? So
Yeah,
Right. It was amazing that it was still standing. The last time I looked at it, I went, how is that standing? You
Yeah.
know,
how did it
because-
have a canopy?
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there were acorns on it. I don't know about this year, but I'll check eventually here. But at least 2 years ago, there were acorns
Uh-huh.
coming off the tree. So yeah, it's been healthy until it isn't, you know, or somewhat healthy.
Yeah.
So-
Are there saplings around it? There are a couple, aren't there?
Yeah, there are. You know, I'm not sure that it's not like anything sprouting right from the base
Uh-huh.
or anything, you know, but it'd be a long time before we could see anything of substantial size. So yeah, but I have some pretty big, or I had some pretty big oak trees in my yard. I still do, a couple, like not, and I'm not that far away from it. It makes me wonder, you know, could they have been moved, squirrels or whatever.
Uh,
But yeah, that's the big news about Ashford Oak.
It would be, you know, I wonder if there. Well, last year's acorns would be eaten already and stuff, but it would have been kind of neat to gather some of the acorns and raffle them off or something.
Yeah, well, I'll see if there are any there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I tried to grow some recently too, in the past, I think it was last year, believe it or not.
really.
They didn't do so well. You know, maybe I probably didn't take care of them the way I should have, but
Oh, man, I have oak trees popping up everywhere in my yard.
I mean, I could, yeah, I'll look, and if there are any, maybe people want them, but
Yeah, I mean, that could be kind of a neat little, I don't know, thing. At Family Day or something, you know?
I think actually back in the 30s, they did do that. They gave away acorns from that tree.
huh,
I'm pretty sure in that there was a big article in it might have been the Hartford Courant or whatever the newspaper was at the time, that was in that booklet of that Barbara Metzak had saved. And it was, they had a gathering or celebration or something. It was some anniversary of the tree. And I believe I remember they were giving away acorns from that tree.
Yeah, in the article that I posted, I just did a quick Google search and posted it. But it said that in 1938, the hurricane did substantial damage to the
Yeah.
tree. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly is, it's sad, that is true, but we got to see it at least, you know,
Yeah,
and,
right,
Yeah.
right. I
and that
feel like-
canopy looked pretty good, as long as that trunk was half standing there with holes all throughout it, but
Amazing.
Right.
it was generating leaves.
Amazing.
I feel a little bit privileged to have presided over it, you know,
Yeah.
when it met its ultimate demise here. So,
Yeah.
And that fence was so beautiful. I mean, it really
Yeah.
showcased
yeah,
it, when that happened. So that was really a very good thing. And so changed
Sure.
it all around. So it was, you took good care of it at its ending part.
at the ending part, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
there were a few years where I didn't, but whatever. You know,
We'll just call you Hospice Maritco.
yeah. Thanks, Christine. Don't give me anything to take care of. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we can just go back and spend just a few minutes looking at Tremco and seeing about the signage and stuff. I think from what I recall last time, Bill and Steve were going to talk about how to do it and what to do with the signage and all that. Is that my recollection? And then we talked a little bit about painting, I think, the colors. Does anybody remember that?
Yeah.
Good.
Didn't we say to do the same thing as Langheimer?
Yeah,
Which
we have
is-
to go out to Langheimer though and see, because I don't
It's
remember
white,
what
isn't it?
colors I painted the Langheimer.
I
Uh-huh.
think Gwen said it was white.
Oh, did she?
I think so.
Pretty
Oh.
sure. Yeah, Bill and I haven't had that talk yet, so,
Been busy with the tree.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Okay, we can, you know, just when that happens, it'll happen. That's great. The next thing on the agenda is the sustainable CT status. The application is complete. The application is not submitted because I had trouble submitting it, pushing the button, which is so symbolic of the whole thing. And I just talked to one of the workers who we've been in close contact with, and she said, oh, that glitch sometimes happens. So I had to email Sustainable, and tomorrow morning they will push the button for us, because we do have all the actions covered. We have something and everything. And then we also have a couple of actions we call innovative actions, which are the last number. And we have 2 of those. So that all total, we have 285 points. We only have to have 200. So we're feeling pretty good that we can get through this, even though it was really tricky. I mean, Stephanie can attest to the amount of hours that she spent on the equity thing, right, Stephanie?
Yes, it
I can
was,
attest
yeah.
to that.
Yeah, and you can, right.
I whined about it periodically.
Well, it's a wineable kind of thing because it is very, very challenging, and particularly challenging for small towns like we are. And particularly challenging when we don't have all the staff at the town hall. So then asking them for things sort of became unsustainable because we were putting pressure on a system that was already under intense pressure. Needless to say, we got it all done, and it's in the works, and we won't hear probably for a couple of months, I wouldn't think, but you will all definitely know when I hear, because I will be jumping up and down and stamping my feet. Well, actually, I think tomorrow I'm gonna celebrate anyway, because it doesn't matter, you know. we
Right,
worked so
because you're
hard.
done.
Yeah, and everybody did. And at the end, people really stood up and really did things that really helped us out. And the social worker, Melissa, at the town hall, she really stepped in and did a lot in terms of dealing with the homelessness stuff, and all that, because they keep on adding more parts that you have to cover. You know, they give you a lot of options, but there are certain things that you have to cover. So it's in, it's over with, and hopefully we will get it, and we'll have a little plaque up again for the next 3 years. And then after that, who knows, you know? I'm not gonna be worried about it for sure. That was my last hurrah, you know? Maybe Steve and I are doing last hurrahs kind of things. You know, he with the tree, me with sustainable, whatever. And then with the pollinator thing, they're doing so many good things. I ran into Jennifer at the fundraiser at Westford Hills on Saturday night, and she says they're really busy. They're doing a lot of things. People are asking for direction from them. People in Ashford are really excited about doing gardens. The post office was excited about having a certain part that is for pollinator plants kind of thing, or our native plants. And they've talked to a lot of garden people around who are making sure that there are native sustainable plants there. So I think it's a really good thing. It's really taken off, and it's taken off not only in our community, but other communities too. So, and we need it, of course. So that's a very positive thing. And you'll see Jennifer usually has a pretty extensive write-up in the Citizen. So look at the next Citizen and see what she's doing and what they're doing. The next thing on the business is under new business, and they're having Family Day on September 18th. And we can have a table, and I was wondering if anyone is interested in doing that. Pam had come up with a great waste reduction and lowering your use of plastic. So I was thinking that might be just another place for us to put a little table up and sit there, and hopefully some people will come and talk to us. When we were at the farmers market, there were people who came, and may have been just the different kinds of people who come to the farmers market. And then, like when we were at the concert series, the people at the concert listening to the concert, so they're not as likely. But Family Day it might be a place if people wanted to do it. It's from 1 to 4. So
I can do it, Loretta.
What?
I can do it.
Okay, great. And if anyone wants to help, I can help you
Okay,
for part of it, at least, for sure.
okay,
So
sounds
that-
great.
That's a Sunday.
But you're welcome to have our table.
I'll need it, actually. Thank
Yeah,
you,
but-
Stephanie.
We're leaving the.
Well, and the big thing that's happening now, there was a big article in the Current, I believe, about what Pam had been talking about, those black plastic takeout things that most of the places where you go to get takeout food, they have those big black plastic containers, and people think they're recyclable because it says so right on it, but they're not. And so the article was talking about people need to be informed because they don't know what's recyclable and what's not.
Right.
So, you know, these things are, I think, really important because people are trying. It's not that people aren't trying. That was one of the things that I was impressed with at the farmers market, that people came over and said, well, I can't keep up with it. I don't really know, you know, or it changes, or, you know, if you're looking at the piece itself, it may say recyclable. That doesn't mean when you bring it to the transfer station that it's going to go in the recyclable, or if it doesn't and it goes in the recyclable and it's not, it can contaminate that whole group there. So it's a tricky thing, but there were people who were very interested, and some people had some, knowledge about that and what to do. And I think that a lot of times it's just simple things. Like I've been at the transfer station, I see people going over and putting a plastic bag of recyclables in the recyclable container, which you can't do, and some of these really simple things could really make a big difference.
Even though there's a sign that specifically says not to do that.
Right. But this month we started our little waste tips. So Pam gave me a waste tip, and so that'll be in the Citizen, and we'll be having waste tips every month to provide more education for people, because I think people do appreciate it. It's one of those things that's just a grunt work kind of thing that you have to keep on doing it, just like picking up trash. You just have to keep on doing it. You keep on doing it, you keep on doing it. It sometimes can feel overwhelming.
The really sad part is the issue that only a paltry amount of what goes into recycling actually gets recycled.
It's really pathetic.
It's really pathetic. So, the bottom line isn't even keeping up with what's recyclable. The bottom line is don't use stuff that needs to be recycled.
Exactly.
The
you
bottom
can make
line
the
is,
choice, make the
bottom line is
choice.
do something else.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that is one of the things we have to emphasize is, bring your own containers, buy in bulk, bring your own bags, those kinds of things, rather than, okay, you can recycle this, but you can't recycle this, because that's sort of not really the issue anymore. The issue is there's too much crap that isn't getting recycled, even if it says it is. So,
well, see, that's the danger of that, is people do think they're doing a good thing. They're recycling,
right.
and it's not. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's crazy. Yeah.
right.
So I think there needs to be a mind shift in some ways away from recycling, but
Well, you're right, but it takes a long time to get people headed in that direction.
yeah, I know.
Especially since our marketplace is set up to not recycle.
Right.
Because when I was a kid at the local grocers, everything was in bulk. I mean, I
Right.
remember going as a kid and everything was in big bins and what have you. But now everything is packaged, and until we can get supermarkets to allow us to buy in bulk and not have to buy packaged things, it's just not going to happen, because it's really difficult for people to not go to the grocery store. I mean, everybody isn't going to go, into Willimantic to
Right.
nor would the co-op be able to handle that many people. But it has to be a sea change before that happens. And part of it is actually doing writing campaigns to the stores.
Right. And companies.
We want. This
Saying,
is what we
"Stop.
want. This is what we want. And
Stop the packaging.
stop packaging things.
So maybe one thing that we could try at the table on the 18th is to have a little petition of sorts to pick a place, pick a big, Stop and Shop, Big Y, whatever, and just have people sign it if they feel so moved. And just
that's
start
cool.
something like that.
Postcards, because it's nice to have lots of mail coming in.
Yes.
But if you had postcards and you had what you want written on it that people could copy or take off of what they want to say, and
Right.
then have it pre-addressed and we mail it, that's great.
That would be cool. How about Staples? Staples and Stop and Shop. I mean, Staples has so much packaging, it's ridiculous, but
Well, I think any of the grocery
all of
stores.
them, everything does, every place does.
Well, the
They buy
grocery
with their
store is
meat
a
and
big thing because you can't not go to the grocery store. Well,
Right.
I mean, some people could, I'm sure.
Well, I
but,
don't, yeah.
You know, you really have to go. And a lot of people couldn't afford at the co-op, even
Right.
though there's a member price and everything, but a lot of people couldn't really afford to go there. So that's number two. So it's like, yeah, you're gonna have people going to these big places, and if they can do more bulk items, that's even, I mean, it's better to get huge containers of something, even if it isn't plastic, than just get one little container, you know, of
Because,
something.
they do have containered items, like nuts are in containers that you can buy a pound of pecans or,
Yeah, they have
Um,
bulk, they have some bulk.
so they aren't, against it, obviously.
Right. You know, another thing to think, I wonder, so one of the things I was reading was that wine bottles, so basically people think, okay, wine bottles, ooh, cool, glass, that gets recycled, no problem, right? Only it doesn't. It gets ground up for roads, to make roads. And there are wine distilleries and whatever that have actually tried to get people to bring their glass bottles back so they can reuse them, and people didn't do it. In Europe, it's basically mandatory that people bring their wine bottles back and can get refilled or recycled.
Well, they drink wine at every meal in Europe.
Right. But that's like a thing. You don't throw away your wine bottle in Europe.
Right.
So that's something that, I mean, just the thing. Oh, and Hosmer Mountain, I don't know. People probably assume that the Hosmer Mountain bottles get recycled. I don't know if they'd get ground up for road work too, unless they actually go back to Hosmer Mountain. We should probably check on that. Does
As far as
Hosmer
I know, they do reuse them.
if they get them, but if they just go through Willie Waste, I don't know.
Right. I don't know it really. Willie Waste probably wouldn't return them to them, but they have their cost on that is pretty, I think it's 25 cents or something per bottle. So you get that back when you bring it back.
But people don't bring them back. They throw them away. But maybe that's, I don't know, whatever.
Well, we can think about those things, but a start is to, continue to try and do the table when we can and really talk with people about some of these things and, maybe get some postcards and,
And eventually maybe at the transfer station, if people become educated and are willing to do it, to have space there for returning specific things that somebody could perhaps volunteer to pick up all of those bottles and deliver them to that place, and all of those bottles and deliver them to that place so that they will be reused.
mm-hmm.
Instead of just throwing in the trash and it won't be reused.
Right. Good point. Yeah. Well, those are all good ideas, and we can keep generating all this and keep our little waste monthly to do, or what you can focus on, and we'll just sort of tackle the mountain one little garbage at a time.
Right. One bottle.
I always get totally blown away when I drive into Hartford and I go past Manchester, where I grew up, and there is this mountain of, a mountain. It's unbelievable. Because I remember when there was no mountain there, and they do a lot of recycling. It's not that they don't, they have certain places where they take it. That's not just everything that's being dumped there in Manchester, which is a little frightening, because that's just one relatively small town in the way
Sure.
towns in America are, right? So, yeah. Okay, I'm gonna skip down to other business because I totally spaced out on the fact that soon in September, I believe it's September 8th, we're
Yeah,
gonna have a public hearing on Cadle Rock.
yeah,
And everybody is going to bring their ideas, but as I understand it, there are also going to be some people there who have done certain things with similar properties. So they can also share what worked, what didn't work, or what they think about, or what they don't think about. So I know Christine has been thinking about this, and she had a couple ideas that she's been kicking around, mostly like multi-use thing, which I think is the thing that as a conservation commission, we should really focus on. And I did just briefly talk with the chair of Willington. And of course, their piece is way smaller than ours, but the significant part of their piece is it has the Nipmuc Trail on it. So I think Kathy invited Forest and Parks person to our hearing to talk about making sure that we have enough area around that trail so it maintains its trailness. So that was the one thing that they were thinking about for themselves. But I'll turn it over to you, Christine, so you can do whatever we can have a discussion about.
well, I had a chat with Chris Abakoff, and we were talking about a multi-use kind of thing for Cadle Rock, and she said that, so there is a deadline for putting in a grant to do something like that on the 15th, September 15th. So it's really right after the hearing. So it's really kind of important that people go to the hearing and make their feelings known and try to come to some kind of idea about what we might do. And if it's something like a multi-use, Christine said she would write a grant. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. I think people just need to go. We need to be at that hearing.
As a commission, going to advocate for one thing specifically?
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. Do we want to do that? The ideas that I've heard that resonate most with me with the multi-use thing is to have it, part of it be like a nature center
Right.
with trails and stuff, and places where like the school can take kids to teach them about everything, and environmental stuff, wildlife resources, et cetera, et cetera. So you have that kind of a learning center there, and then have things like, depending on the lay of the land, like a solar installation.
Solar.
And I
farm.
know that there are at least 2 areas that have been farmed in the past, 2 fields. I don't know what else. I don't know how much flat land is really there. But
Not much.
it seemed, pardon?
Not too much.
Right, that's what I was saying. So those 2 fields might be prime, but I would not want the 2 fields to have stuff planted in them with pesticides and everything. I mean, we spent all this money to remediate this land,
Right.
and then to go ahead, and it seems rather foolhardy to then have somebody planting something in there using pesticides and everything.
And
So-
herbicides.
Yeah, whatever.
Go to the groundwater.
So I think, like practicing really sustainable agriculture, kinds of things. And then, looking at how much can the land hold, because my sense is, and Steve, you might know this better than I, because you've been in there a lot more. There's a lot of water on that property. Oh, maybe not now, but I mean, generally speaking, there usually is water there.
Right, so from the 44, from Road 44 back, if you walked straight in,
Yeah.
you've got a small cornfield, or what used to be a cornfield there. Then you go up a small rise, probably a rise of 8 feet. And then there's a much bigger, what used to be a cornfield there. Those are the only 2 arable portions of the property. The rest is wooded, although they cleared, someone, probably 3 or 4 years ago came in and cut wood. They harvested lumber there. And then as you get toward the back of that field, it's wet. And I've never walked through the wet, it's just way too swampy. And then there's a road that goes right about when you hit that swamp, there's a road that goes over to, what is it? Is it Carosi Road?
Yeah.
You know where that cemetery is at the end of Carosi Road? Anybody? It's over, well,
Probably,
if you go on Giant Oak Lane where Ashford Oak is,
right.
there's another road that goes in there. And if you go to the end of that road, it's a dead end. There's a cemetery.
Right. I
Oh,
know.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
And to the left is another road. It's not an improved road. And let me, I'm partially wrong about, there is one more field over in that area that may have been planted with corn, but more likely just hay. It's not a big field, a little bit hard to access. You have to go over a bridge that I worry a little bit about driving a tractor over it because it's a little dicey, that bridge. I don't think it's been worked on. It probably needs improvement. In any case, there isn't a whole lot of farmland.
Uh-huh.
Everything, and then, do you know where the swamp is at the very end of Knowlton Road?
Mm-hmm.
And that interconnects all there. That's all swamp in there. And everything else is kind of hilly, not really, it's not conducive to doing things. You'd have to go in, maybe if there was some big project, somebody with lots of equipment could do whatever they want there, but yeah, so the easily accessible portions of the property are the farm fields, and really to navigate to other parts of the property, you kind of have to go through those farm fields, which could be a bit awkward for access. If you're thinking multi-use, and I agree. They talk about, we saw one proposal, I think, right, to grow barley there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that was interesting, but I think the town was going to get maybe $1,000 from that. It's kind of like, why bother?
Why bother?
Who benefits from that? One person growing barley or whatever it is. And I think, in my opinion, the town, if you opened it up to, like you said, Loretta, trails, activities, things like that, you get the whole town benefiting from that. If it was a walking space, running, whatever, those kinds of things are more inclusive than just farming.
Yeah.
Also have a pollinator demonstration area.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's wetlands and then there's other, and so it could be actually a trail in itself. This is what you'd plant, on flat, dry areas, and this is what you'd find, you'd want to see, because a
In a
lot of us have
swampy area.
property that have some wetlands
Yeah.
Right.
that you might want to make sure has the right stuff on it.
Right.
So that could be an Project.
It might be, that you're talking about this with the fact that it's swampy and everything. It might be to our benefit to invite Jean Pillow to come and talk a little bit about, that kind of a property and what she might see as something interesting to do with it. The other thing I was thinking about is for Yale Forest to be involved, and they have students around. They do a lot of work on their master's or doctorate or something, to use that also as a place where they could do experiments and stuff. I mean, that would also be something that could be of benefit, and everybody would benefit from that, in that it's a laboratory, and I think Yale Forest does a lot for us, for our town, just by having that wonderful forest there and doing activities that it's open to everyone can go. So, it seems like, to look at it from a piece of, it's not like, here's this great huge piece of land that's open space and we can do whatever with. It has its limitations, and how do we really enhance the limitations so we make full use of it, and like Steve says, for many people to be able to enjoy it and use it. And that right away, what comes up is education and recreation.
Yeah.
Right.
It seems to me.
Somebody mentioned solar. Well, the thing about solar is, it's a permanent thing, more or less. And for the time being, I think, Ashford doesn't really know what they want to do there. I wouldn't go the solar route, and sort of, because you're locked in for 20, 30 years if you do something like that, right? So,
And nothing grows under solar.
yeah, well, that could be argued, but yeah, if you talk to the people promoting solar, they'll say, oh yeah, I can graze sheep under there and all kinds. Yeah, okay. But truth, passive recreation, I think, community gardens, I mentioned one time, that's it's not a permanent thing. It could be, it's pretty passive. Yeah, it'd be nice to have water there, but it's not necessarily a given, that the town would provide that. But yeah, I would lean toward more passive use until, and I know people have big ideas. So, an office complex, all that, but that takes years and years to develop.
So if we came down on the idea of passive recreation, educational use, all of that, as Steve said, I think that's really important, is abiding your time kind of thing. It could be done without mitigating future use.
Right.
And give value.
And demonstration projects.
And demonstration, yeah. I mean, I think that's really cool. I think that would be really cool. So I wonder if we can make a suggestion as a commission.
We can make a suggestion. I mean, does anybody want to write something up and can pass it around to all of us, and we can sort of look at it and see?
Steve, I like what you said.
Yeah. I mean, I could list some passive activities or ideas. And I guess I could coordinate some of that, if you would agree with some of the things I said. And
I would,
if you have other ideas, send them.
Uh-huh.
I think our
I
big
would
thought
help.
is the fact that we'd like it as a multi-use, what you said about recreation and
Education.
Education.
what have you. And then list a bunch of stuff that potentially could be done there
Yeah.
and just make it simple.
So, okay, so we already talked about this. So we have pollinator, community gardens, kind of a nature path.
Get
uh,
Angela to weigh in on
educational-
swampy areas.
Yeah, educational venue. That's 4 things. I think we can probably come up with maybe 6
Walking trail.
Yeah,
walking trail that would connect with the Nipmuc.
Right. Yeah, yeah, those are good ideas. I was gonna write some of this down, but then I remembered this is all recorded. I can come back to it. So,
Right. Yes, yes, yes.
But yeah, what other things? Well, you said demonstration gardens, pollinator pathway kind of thing, community gardens.
For
maybe.
school children, for elementary school children.
Sure. I mean, we could buy plants and plant them there. Yeah, you know, like we do the shrubs and show people how, you know, what they could do in their yards, for instance, you know.
Well, it could be planting native plants, you
Exactly.
know, that could be something that we could have a native plant showcase in a
Right.
couple of areas.
Sure.
And
Arboretum.
a pathway with signage.
And signage, yeah.
Right. And I can assure you, there are many invasives there too that
Yes,
could be
right,
demonstration.
Identify everything.
Yeah,
really.
right.
I do really like the community garden part too. I think that would be really, because we don't have any place for anything like that.
Sure. Now, how's the town going to push back on something like that? It seems to me there's, you know, they'll talk about liability, but virtually anything you do there, you know, the town has some liability for, right? So, and it's no worse liability than you have at
At the park.
the rec park. Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, it's
Yeah, there's a river there.
yeah, that's even worse, I suppose, you know, if there's water in it.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think the big push, it seems to me, part of the big pushback is there are, you know, depending on what hat you wear, there's a big push to get something economic there that
Right.
would benefit the town. And so that was one of the reasons why I was thinking something like solar or something like that, where there would be some income generation. And maybe that's not important. I don't know, but I was just thinking about that of like, how do you
Well, that could be a
satisfy
demonstration
that
plan.
element? And there's a lot of people in that, on that side of the fence.
You
But
could
again,
allow
that could be-
demonstration projects for solar. You could allow demonstration projects for lumber. You know, you could allow demonstration projects that could potentially generate income, just not necessarily at that property, but so people can see what kinds of things you can do. And I think that if you're a solar person and you're selling it, wouldn't you want to have a little space so that you can show and tell that's right there? You know, that you wouldn't have a whole array,
Field, right.
but you would have options that that's a show and tell. And that seems like that would be more efficient for a business to do that than to have to go customer to customer to customer.
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
I think the important point though is, for the time being, let's do something for the time being and temporize on something more permanent.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, Christine says, oh, there's a deadline for a grant. And, you know, I don't think we're not ready to write a grant necessarily for, you know, some big project, that's for
Right.
sure. You know, we need time. The
Right.
town needs time to, you know, sort out what they really want to do. And
Right.
like you said, this buys time. It's nothing permanent, and, you know, it affords an opportunity to the community too, so.
But even what we're talking about would require some funding, probably.
Probably some, yeah. Walking trails don't require much.
Right. I mean, this commission has already made walking trails, so.
Right. And with the help of,
Community garden, you know, there may be some farmer, maybe there's a farmer who might possibly help put in a community garden.
or Public Works may have,
Oh, right,
you know, their support could be enlisted too, so.
right.
I think the community garden would work best if we did come up with people who were really instrumental in wanting to do that, because it is a lot of work. I've talked to people because we were initially trying to think about to start out small community garden around the senior center. And, you know, it's easy to start it really. And there were a couple of people who were working in pollinators and who have gardens, who could do something like that, but it's sustaining it and how to keep it going. And you've got to have someone who really likes the concept of community gardening, is willing to go the long haul with it, because it does take a while for it to generate, just as the farmers market took quite a while to generate. I mean, it was really rocky in the beginning, and now it almost runs itself in many ways. So it's like looking at, you know, talking with people, not necessarily this is for the hearing, but putting it out that if people are interested in talking about this, you know, they
Sure,
could contact us, you know, and maybe we could work with the Ag Commission, you know, and having that be a part of our town, you know, a joint kind of effort, which I think would be great for us to say, yeah, you know, because everybody says all we're interested in is hugging trees. And yeah, hugging trees is one thing, but, you know, we're interested in a lot of things. And so, and of course, you know, when they say that, I go, well, do you know what trees do for us? You know, it's like, come on, you know, particularly now in terms of air and stuff. And then people go, oh, yeah, right, kind of. But I think the whole thing about it could be a demonstration of sorts to show the value of keeping land the way it is and all that you can pull from it. You know, that
And
kind of, I mean,
keeping
we
it-
know that, but it's really hard sometimes to convince other people. Like, for instance, when Steve and I went to the Board of Finance and talking about taking what I feel is a pretty small sum in terms of the entire budget of the town of Ashford, taking $8,000 per year that we get from Yale Forest and putting it in an open space fund, we met with a lot of resistance. And, you know, a couple of people said, well, we already have enough open space in town.
Where?
Well, yeah, okay. Christina, all I'm saying is this is the way people
Yeah, I
talk.
know.
And we do have areas of protected space, like the farms that the development rights are sold, like the pieces of Forest Legacy, which I didn't even mention because it's not finalized yet, but we do have several people who have put in for the Forest Legacy, and they are, that is in process right now. Finally, they've gotten to it. And so the deep person is working on going through and assessing the land, coming up with a price, talking with the farmers and coming up with something. But what the Board of Finance people were saying to me and Steve was, well, that only benefits one person. it doesn't benefit the town to preserve farms. I mean, that's totally against what our open space plan says. It's pretty much totally against what it says in the plan of conservation and development. But the people who are saying this don't read that section, you know, and it just like, but I think that's why, you know, it's like to really put some things down, which can sort of entice people to come to our side kind of thing, you know?
To
That sort of,
benefit the community.
right,
I think we need to sell it as, we would like it to benefit the community as a whole.
right.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. There'll be, you know, based on what we've heard in the past, there may be a strong agricultural,
They already have a proposal in.
yeah. Yeah. So, you know, we'll be sort of countering that, right?
Yep.
So anyway, yeah. Oh, by the way, with, you know, Mansfield's had a community garden
Mhm.
for at least 30 years.
Yeah,
At
right.
least that long. And, you know, do you know where it is? It's near Mansfield Supply.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
behind, yeah, it's in those fields.
Yeah. So I'm not sure that anybody really organizes it. They must, but, you know, it's, we could find out more about that too. So, but I like your idea of, hey, if people are interested,
Mhm.
try to get some involvement, you know,
Mhm.
community support for that too.
Plant some seeds, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I think you've got, you know, something, Steve, and you can, you know, get some points going and circulate it around to all of us.
Yeah,
And we can add to it or have questions of it, whatever. And then just present that. Or if, you know, we can actually send it to the Board of Selectmen before the meeting,
sure. Yeah, that
yeah,
would be good.
you know,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
it's not like one person standing there and saying, oh, this is what conservation is doing, you know. and then
yeah.
people
And
go, "Ah."
we should get it there substantially before the 8th so that it actually makes it to their agenda.
Yeah, yeah.
So the 8th is a Sunday, 765 by the
No,
5th.
it can't,
probably.
it's not a Sunday if it,
Isn't it?
I don't
what's
think they
the
would have a
8th?
public hearing on a Sunday.
Right, what's the 8th?
Let me just look at the calendar here.
I got
The 8th is a Monday,
Thursday.
no, it's a Thursday.
a Thursday. Wow. Well,
So it doesn't need, you know, it can just present some ideas. I think we've
right,
all put in some of the things, and it's just a starting point. And I think it's also making people aware of possibilities that we think would benefit the whole town and create more community, which is, I think, what a lot of people in Ashford want.
so I think we need to set ourselves a deadline of the 2nd to get something written and in. Does that make sense? That's Friday.
Sure.
Okay, I will help. I will help on this.
Great. Hey, you know, there's one thing, you know, all these ARP funds that were talked about.
Uh-huh.
And I thought of this at one point. I should have made a suggestion. I think the town needs to have a public water resource for people whose wells dry up. And I know they've offered water in the past at the town hall, but you know, basically it's been a hose hooked up to the side of the building. Maybe something a little more permanent. I mean, wells could run dry anytime, and it's too bad, especially considering, you know, the state of our water levels lately, you know. So I don't think that's going away. We've had a bunch of years with drought lately.
Yeah. Yeah,
So, but I don't know if we could weave something like that into that property, but, you know.
Well, the other thing is, you know, there are still funds available because they haven't used all of the monies. Well, they need a little cushion because everything that got approved, they're probably, when they actually go to
Will
get
get
it,
an
it's probably
override.
gonna be more costly than they initially thought. But there's still almost a $500,000 left in the funds.
Oh, wow. Huh.
So, you know, that realistically from that, I would think, you know, we could think about submitting another proposal to them. Because that's basically how all that came about. People were just submitting proposals and then, you know, I think the Board of Selectmen chose certain things, but there probably is more funding available that we could use that for something like that, which is definitely, particularly now, you know, it's real, you
Yeah.
know.
I've been
Yeah.
worried about my well for a while now, but so far so good. And we did have rain today, but I
Yeah.
think most of that rain just got sucked up in the topsoil.
Oh, yeah. Just dig down 2 inches and it's bone dry,
Right.
or
Exactly.
1 inch.
Yeah. But yeah, I used that facility a few years ago, and you know, I wouldn't say there was a line, but I had to wait to use it, and then somebody came right after me, and so I don't think it's unusual for people's wells to run dry. So
Yeah. I'm sure there are a lot of old shallow wells around here.
Yeah,
I-
now, I don't know, there's also a place to get water right by the Living Proof Church. Living Proof Church, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, in the side, right where you go to for the food giveaway, the food pantry.
Really?
And there's also outside water faucets, and I'm not sure. I know one is connected by the senior center.
Is it potable water?
As far as I know, it is. I think, well, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know, but I think it's the same water that's used at the senior center.
Huh. Well, you know, just
But that's still not saying that there should be a more accessible or a better designed place rather than having to just by the town hall, it's accessible, but it's hard to get that water a lot because there's just the hose there and filling up things and it takes time. So yes, when people don't have any power and they're, you know, we have a good well, but when we don't have power, we don't have water, you know,
Right.
so it's two things going on.
yeah, that's right.
And, right. Did people hear about the Midway fire?
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, there was a fire at Midway on Saturday night, I believe, and mostly was in the bar area. I think there's some thinking that it was maybe somebody throwing a cigarette. It was around 12 or something at
Oh my
night.
God.
And if you go by there, you can see the bar part of the roof is pretty damaged. They're hoping, I think, to get it up and running pretty soon for takeout. But I think it's going to be a longer while for the bar. I don't know exactly. As I drove by, I'm not sure how much of the kitchen was damaged, but it was a fire. It was a significant fire.
So they
Wow.
posted pictures on Ashford
Functional.
Community Connections.
Uh-huh.
You could see flames coming out from the top, and for sure there's smoke damage
Uh-huh.
throughout the whole building, you know, so
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Mm. Oh, well, you know, the only other thing I had on the agenda was thinking about future programs, and it seems to me that maybe next time we can think about this and talk a little bit about what kind of a program might we set up about waste. You know, we all seem to have a lot of concerns about waste and a lot of good ideas, and maybe we could set up a program for later on in the year to, I don't know, talk about various things from composting to, you know, how you can use different things so you're not having to buy small amounts and using a lot of packaging, or how, even I know that some people I know have gone into a restaurant and said, I don't want any plastic, and the people on the restaurant said, well, what do you want me to put it in? Well, paper, or I'll bring something,
Right.
or maybe asking people, can you bring your own containers and stuff? So I don't know, something like that, something about, and also I think it would be helpful if we were able to come up with some numbers about how much money it costs the town for waste. Because people also don't know that we, in addition to the hauling waste and everything, we are also paying for recyclables too now. It never used to be that way, but now we are. So, according to calculations, I think it was something like per capita, it was 837 pounds per year. That's a lot of waste.
837 pounds?
Right.
Per capita.
Per capita.
Oh my gosh.
Right.
So,
And that was less than the year before. The year before it was 837, 867 or something, 864 or something. Yeah.
I guarantee you, I'm keeping that number lower. But one thing, I know you guys have talked about that. I remain fairly silent when this discussion comes up, but I do wonder if it's really true that they reject the loads. Do we know that for certain? Because I think, because of some,
Contamination.
yeah.
Contamination.
You
Who
know,
was
Yeah.
telling
black
us? What-
plastic.
I'll
no,
call,
Willie-
I'll
Willie-
call Willington Waste tomorrow and see if there's someone I can talk to get the numbers, both the monetary numbers that we're paying, and find out about whether they do reject loads of recyclables.
Right, because
Put it on here.
the reason I point this out is because it's virtually impossible to monitor everything that goes into those bins. So
Right.
they've had to have dealt with this for a very long time. I do know that they make machines that, you just pile this stuff onto a conveyor belt, and they have sensors, and, they sort it with a machine. So I wonder, I don't know if it's hand sorted. Maybe it's still hand
No,
sorted.
it's not hand sorted, Steve, because several years ago, we went to Willie Waste.
Oh, you
When they
did?
were just putting up that whole sophisticated system. I think it was from, it was either the Netherlands or Norway or Sweden, something
yeah.
around. They
That's
set up, it took quite a while to put up, and it does go through and cast out things. There are some things that the machine can't read. And so then it isn't even in the recycle thing, it goes into the regular trash. I don't know. I don't think they reject things. I think it just goes from recycling into regular trash, which the town pays more for the regular trash thing rather than the recyclable.
Okay, I'd like to come from a factual position. If we're going to talk about that, as a reason to do these things, I'd hate for somebody to say, oh no, that's not true or whatever. I think it's important. Our credibility is at stake here a little bit, so we want to be sure that, that it's not a machine that's rejecting it, and that in fact, Ashford gets less or something. If we're going to say that, then it really needs to be true. So,
This is all, I would check things. I don't think we would put on any sort of program to the town just based on what we heard other people saying. I mean, I don't think we would just casually say, oh, this is going on and that's going on, that sort of thing. So some of this stuff has come from Chris, who's the person who keeps track of what goes on with waste. Because each person in town there has to be, each town has to have a person who's in charge of that and reports it to Deep and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So no, I don't think it's like spreading rumors or something. It's more from my sense, it's more saying, look, not only are we hurting the environment and hurting ourselves, we're also hurting our pocketbooks. That's all I'm saying. I don't think people think that much about it.
Sure.
That's all.
No, I'm not against raising awareness or any of the things that are said, but I have heard it said that, oh, they reject things. You know, we say that a lot in these meetings. And I think we ought to be able to back that up with some fact. You know, these meetings are
Well,
recorded too. Go ahead.
Steve, if you look at the Willimantic Waste site, they have lists of the things that are recyclable and the things that aren't. They specifically say we no longer accept black plastic for recycling.
Sure, okay.
So somehow that gets sorted out. They also say things like, I'm looking at it now. I mean, there is stuff that is on their site. So things that are not allowed and things that are allowed. So things that aren't allowed: trash, plastic bags, food, styrofoam, electronics, yard waste, bulky waste. So styrofoam, black plastic, what do they do with that? And how do they do that? I don't know, but it's not allowed.
Yeah, okay. So maybe we should find out what they do with it, and then we can, you know, again, we speak from a position of knowledge rather than, I don't know, sort of vague references to, oh, they're going to reject the whole load and Ashford's going to have to pay more. And, you know, is that really true? I guess, Pam, you're going to research that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no
Might not
problem.
be a bad idea to ask the Clean Energy Task Force to maybe join in a project like that, because they look at it from a slightly different perspective of what happens to waste that is rejected. And that in itself is pretty interesting. That may get people's attention from just a little different viewpoint.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. You know, and I also think that it's important for us to think about other kinds of programming that we may want to do. That's basically, it doesn't really matter what it is. I'm just thinking that we need to put our caps on and think about what kinds of things as a commission would we want to be doing for programming. Because we haven't really done much programming. I understand part of that is COVID, of course, but you know, we could think about maybe towards the spring doing something, or, you know, just, I think just beginning to plan ahead for what kinds of things are interest to people and what would be helpful to our town in terms of education wise. I mean, I think
Well,
that's our task.
I mean, as a first step, can I share screen a minute? I'm going to share screen a minute. So this is the Willimantic Waste site. So this is, I did a search for plastic plant trees pot. They had a drop down. So here's what they say: black plastic, not acceptable. Planter trays, not acceptable. Only plastic, green, white, and red are acceptable. Ask your local garden center if they are, I mean, this is all stuff people probably don't know. Best option, consider reusing. Other options, instructions: reuse nursery pots and trays, sanitize them first to kill any pathogens, you know. So I mean, they have a lot of stuff here that we could use, because this is where it goes. Now we need to find out, okay, if you don't meet these rules, what happens? That's what we need to find out. But as a first step, this is information that we could certainly share that probably most people aren't really knowledgeable about.
Yeah, it's one thing to say, no, no, no this, no that, no that. But then the next question they're gonna ask is, so what do we do with it?
Yeah, right. Well, it goes into trash. It goes into landfill.
Or
Yeah,
they say right here on the website, reuse it if you can,
Right.
you know, reuse or trash. Consider reusing if in good condition. If cannot be reused, then it goes into trash.
Right.
is
Yeah.
there,
So there no stuff should be put in the trash. So they will put it in the trash
yeah,
somehow.
is there a committee for recycling or for waste?
There's supposed to be a trash committee. I don't know if it's meeting yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Bill Folletti said there is one. And he said once they do start meeting, if they would welcome any of us who would want to attend.
A transfer, right? About the transfer station.
Yeah, a
Yes.
transfer
Mhm.
commission.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It seems to me it'd be easy enough, to put a big sign up down at the transfer station in the lower level where people, when they drive by, they could stop and read it if they wanted to, but whatever.
Yeah, sort of like the sign next to the bin that says, don't put plastic bags, and then you watch people throwing plastic bags in.
yeah, we
Next to the
talked
sign
about
that
the
says-
whiteboard.
Yeah.
Next to
you're
the
not gonna
sign that
stop all
says, I took a picture of the no idling sign, and as I was taking the picture, there was a car and a truck idling.
They do it all the time.
Did it come out in the picture, Christine?
No, because I took a close up.
I'm
I
just kidding.
did not out them.
Yeah. But
That's
Because
why
they
we
may
have a
have done it.
commission to do the work and spread the educational know-how so that people get educated and do things a little differently. That's our whole process. That's why we're
Right.
here, and it feels endless sometimes. And there's always another question and there's always people who disagree.
right.
I mean, I remember talking to this one farmer who sold his property to a subdivision and then the subdivision went up and he looked at me and he went, I wish I had listened to you because I wouldn't have done this. He said, I thought we had enough trees in Ashford, but no, not that we need to save every tree. I'm not saying that, but we need to be a little bit more mindful of what we're doing. That's all. And
Right.
sometimes we have to learn the hard way. Well, that's the way it is.
Yeah, and I brought that up, not because I disagree with anything we say, but I'm a little uncomfortable sometimes when we say things that I'm not sure we know for sure, like how they process the plastic and all that. That's all.
Well, and it's
So-
constantly changing also.
Sure.
So you guys went to see them and see the process?
Mhm.
Can
You
anyone
can,
go?
if people are interested in doing a tour, you
Yes.
can call them and say, I'm interested, you could call and say, we're on the Conservation Commission in Ashford. We'd like to see about how you handle, the recycling stuff and everything. And they'd set you up and they gave us a tour. I can't remember what group we were in it might have been Clean Energy, actually. But it
How
was
long
several
ago?
years ago. It was when they first started with the single stream. And it was pretty amazing to watch that machine go in action. And there was still one piece that wasn't completed. So the workers were standing on this rolling belt, sorting out the bottles and cans. It was unbelievable to watch that people do this for 8 hours a day.
Yeah,
That I still have that image of these two guys doing this. It's pretty hard to
Well,
see,
in,
but they may not be doing that anymore. I don't know that, because like I said, that was a while ago.
all right, I will call them and see if I can set up a tour. Is anyone else interested in going with me?
I'll
I'll go
go.
again with you.
I'd go.
Okay, what day of the week would be good?
I don't work, so.
Yeah, I don't work either.
A Tuesday, other than a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Wednesday afternoon would be good, or any other day I can work around it, but Tuesday would be hard. So
Okay, I'll
other
shoot-
than a Tuesday would be good for me.
All right, I'm gonna shoot for a Wednesday or a Thursday afternoon,
Okay.
okay?
Mhm.
All right.
And then could I just put something in? I'd like to set up our roadside cleanup for October 22nd. That's a Saturday, rain date for the 23rd.
Okay.
All righty.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, well, anyone else have anything else to put in the pot? Okay, well, all right, we'll end, and everybody's gonna do their thing. Steve will do his thing. Christine will set up the tour. Pam will check with Willie Waste and set up the
I'll finish this
trash
out.
cleanup. So we're all set.
Sounds good. I'll
All right.
shoot an email out after I find out anything.
Okay, good enough. All right,
Good night,
Okay.
everyone.
have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.